Excellent job, team. Happy Friday and welcome to Path to the Pros. This is a segment that Aaron and I came up with. I'm your host, Thomas Rowe, co-founder of Blueprint to Bluechip, along with Aaron, who is also the co-founder of Blueprint to Bluechip. And basically what we've been doing now for the last couple of weeks, couple of months, is we put together a segment called Path to the Pros. And one of the questions we get from a lot of parents and a lot of athletes is, what does it take to get to the next level? Whether that's the NFL, the NBA, or MLB, or any other professional sport, even the Olympics. One of the things we share with them, and we're actually going to ask Trey to share his story, is we do not have a secret potion. We don't have a magic bullet. All we know is that everyone's path to the pros is different. Some people go the JUCO routes. Trey happens to go through the Air Force Academy. Other people go through D1, D2 schools. So there's no right path. The one thing that we do know is that you can't cut corners. There are no shortcuts. You can't check a box, and you got to embrace the process. One of the things that Trey and I were talking about off camera was there is a process, and sometimes you just got to let go. Your plan isn't going to always work out the way you thought it was going to work out. Got to let go, let God. So we're going to get into it. Trey, welcome to the show. We really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah, definitely. Good to be here. Good to be on with you guys.
Excellent. Trey, you grew up in Frisco, Texas. Take us back. When did football become so serious for you, and when did you know you wanted to play at the next level?
Yeah, so football became serious for me when I was 5 years old. My dad, he would have me out in the yard doing stuff at 3 years old, learning on footwork drills and hand-eye coordination and playing soccer. I knew that at some point I would want to develop into a more physical sport. So from that 3 to 5, I was just building that hand-eye coordination. So at 5, I could hit the field and play ball, and I fell in love with it immediately. My first memories that I can think back to now are on the field. And so, yeah, it means everything for me, especially coming from that community in Frisco, Texas. There's a lot of talent that came from that school that I went to, and to be able to bring that talent to the NFL from there has been it's been crazy. So
That's awesome. So I just got some information here that you're cousins of Ed Reed, one of the greatest safeties in NFL history and a Hall of Famer. What was it like growing up with the kind of legacy in your family tree? Was it pressure or an inspiration?
yeah, no, it was an inspiration definitely because it wasn't direct cousins. So the lineage was definitely there. He gave a lot of clarity, a lot of understanding, a lot of help in my game came from him, especially in college. So yeah, but there wasn't really any pressure. It was just like seeing him, a part of my family tree, and bringing his legacy forward into what it was back then and what it still is today. Like it's really special to be able to have that close by and to be able to use for knowledge, at the drop of a dime. So that was really nice.
Awesome. So you're highly recruited out of Frisco, Texas. We all know about high school football down in Texas, Friday Night Lights. So you're getting recruited by dozens of schools. Take us through your top three choices, and then how did you settle in on the Air Force Academy?
Yeah. So man, I was I was out there like a lot of high school athletes chasing that big dream of that Power Five, or at this point what Power Four program. Um, and it stuck for just a second. I had a lot of interest from Northwestern, and um, I was passionate about going there, but they ended up going in a different direction right next to signing day, and it kind of ruined my perception of what I really wanted, and actually it put me back on the right path of what I really wanted. And so from then on, I started focusing on schools that had chose me, and that I was their first option, and that I feel like needed me or wanted me. And that changed the course of my career and definitely my decision making, because Air Force was my second offer. And I was going into my junior year. What was that? Junior year? No, it was my junior year that I was getting the offers. And the Air Force gave me that second offer, and so I remembered that for a long time, and figured I would, try out the academy. My parents really liked the academy, so we took a visit out there, and I fell in love with the mountains and the people that I felt like I was going to go to school with, and it was the easiest decision I had made at that point. So yeah, that's why I ended up going that route, not even really knowing the military aspect of things. It was just something that I adopted as soon as I got there.
Awesome. Air Force is unlike any other college program in America. You're not just a student athlete, you're a military cadet. What does a typical day actually look like at the Air Force Academy?
Yeah, typical. Um, so a typical Monday, I'll take you through that. It's depends on the year, most definitely, but let's say it's a senior year, so we're a little bit more relaxed. Um, about 7:30, you wake up. Probably 6:30. Wake up, go to breakfast. Oh, because breakfast ends at 7:30, so you gotta get breakfast before 7:30. Class actually starts at 7:30 as well, so wake up at 6:30, get your food. You go to class, go to about 4 hours of class. Hopefully, you have an hour off, but most times you don't. Um, sitting there until 11:30. Then you go out, you march to lunch. You get in formation on march to lunch. And then you get in the lunchroom. Lunchroom, you have what? How many people we have in there? 4,000 cadets at one time eating. So you're eating in there all together, and then you get up, you go out, you do some military training, and then you have about an hour off. You go down to football, and then you do whatever business that you got to do down there. And if it was during the season, oh gosh, if it was during the season, then it was 6 hours that you're spending down there. So it was a lot. There was a lot that was going on, but I loved every day. I didn't know any different.
That's awesome. And you didn't play for your first two seasons at Air Force. What were those 2 years of waiting and developing for you mentally, and how did you stay ready?
Yeah, so my first year, I definitely wanted to play, didn't get the opportunity, just because they had that trust, with the seniors that they had there. But I knew that next year I would have the opportunity to still some playing time and possibly even start. So I went into that off season in a good position. That first year was crucial for me to just get some size on me, get some understanding of the defense, get some understanding of what the coaching staff wanted out of their safeties, and expectations for the position in itself at the college level. And then the offseason, I did really well. I secured the starting spot, and then COVID happened, so I went home during that season, took that semester off. And that semester off back home, man, I got huge. I was lifting twice a day, running once a day at least. And I was the most athletic, the most bendy that I'd ever been. So I came back in tip top shape. Um, then at that point, it was just me refining everything that I learned on the field over the next couple of years. But yeah, those first 2 years of sitting out just got my body where I wanted it to be. So then once I got the mental right about my junior year, everything was able to take off.
Love it, love it. Most players at a Power Five school purely focus on football, but you had
Mhm.
military obligations on top of everything else. How did that make you a better football player?
Man, the discipline that came with playing football. I think that playing football, people can lose sight of the things that you truly need to do, like taking care of your body and what you put in your body. And the military covered that base in a lot of ways. You know, first of all, with drugs, got random drug pops. Every so often, and that's school you not want to get pop positive, so you knew to stay
Right.
away from that. Um, and then, when it came to the discipline that the military just instills in you, other people, other teams, other guys, I see them eating all types of food, during the season, during the off season, right before a game, and that's their normality. Whereas us, like we all understood a little bit more, so what we needed and what we were lacking. Really, honestly, being at the academy, you're going to be lacking in resources compared to Georgia and Alabama. So
Sure.
um, being able to recover from that, and a lot of that was food wise. I mean, yeah, that definitely helped us out big time going to the academy and having that discipline.
That's awesome. I think I shared with this with you. I mean, it was back in the day, my brothers played at San Diego State, which is in the WAC conference, and they played. And I asked my brothers once, who is the, tell us who the most disciplined school was. And he said every year they were never the biggest or the fastest, but they were always the most disciplined. That was the Air Force Academy. So it's a true testament to the culture of that program. And you mentioned, Alabama and Georgia earlier there. You won the Jim Thorpe Award in 2023, given to the nation's best defensive back. How do you think you beat out players from Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State? What did that moment feel like for you?
That moment was everything, first of all. But it was just like a culmination of all the hard work that I knew I had put in to get to that point. But to be honest, it was almost blinding because my whole career at the academy, the reason why I think I won is because I was working every single day. It didn't matter what was going on. I was getting 1% better in every single area of my life. Like, that's what the academy gave to me, and it forced you to do that. So doing that 1% in every facet, no matter if you're failing and learning that lesson to get 1% better, or just getting 1% better, doing what you need to do to get better as a person, as a man, it provided that for you, and it definitely provided that for me. And so after a while, doing that every single day, just putting my head down, not even realizing how much work I was really putting in. After a while, I just, kind of separated from the pack at Air Force a little bit. And then after separating from the pack at Air Force, I separated from a lot of the guys that were ranked way higher than me coming out of high school. You look at my 24/7, whatever. I was ranked like the 90-something safety or 100-something safety coming out of Texas my year. And then I see the work that I put in, and it doesn't. I'm not surprised. I will say I'm not surprised.
That's awesome. That is awesome. Again, that's what I said at the top of the show is you got to do the work. You got to embrace the process. You can't just phone it in. So then right after the Jim Thorpe, you also won the Pat Tillman Award in the East-West Shrine Bowl. Pat Tillman's story is one of the most powerful in sports history. What did receiving that award mean to you personally?
That meant a lot as well, just because I know what he stood for. I know I don't really know the thought process that was going through his head because I haven't had to come to a decision like that in my life. But the sacrifice that he made, I dealt with the precursor to making those sacrifices going to that school, so I get a small understanding of what he went through. But to make that decision, to have that honor and that skill on the field, and to fall with honor in the way that he did, man, that sacrifice, I think that life is about making sacrifices for, the better good and what's going to make you better. And he made the ultimate sacrifice. So, yeah,
Sure
getting
did.
that award was, that was an honor.
Awesome. Air Force runs a triple option offense, which means defense don't get to practice against traditional NFL style passing attacks. How did that develop into an elite defensive back without those traditional reps?
Man, our coaches did such a good job at the academy of giving us conventional looks from, regular offenses that you see on Saturdays. We play in the Mountain West. You're playing a spread offense every single week. You're playing Utah that throws bombs over Baghdad, and that's their playbook is, slot fade, and one of our guys is going to be open. That's why they have a receiver going the first 4 rounds every year for the past like 3 years. So they've been doing pretty good with showing us what it looks like to play defense at Alabama or Georgia, and giving us, as much on our plate as we can handle at the academy, because it has to be 11 like-minded dudes that understand ball just as well as the others. And sometimes you may not have that at a military school, to be honest, because some people did not have that much of an admiration, and that's going to be at any school that you go to. But we kept it pretty PG-13 with our coverages. So, but it made for a good understanding for when I hit the league. It was good.
That's awesome. Draft day, 7th round, 223rd pick. Walk us through what that day felt like from the morning to the moment the phone rang.
Yeah. So I woke up in the morning and my aunt was with me. We went to go work out just to get like our mind off of it. I was about to do like one of them day in the lives. Like I was gonna record myself throughout the whole day and like washing my face and brushing my teeth and shit. But I ended up putting that down just to enjoy the actual moment and to see, where my emotions were at during the day and really just put down the phone because I just keep on searching up my name and seeing where I was supposed to be going during the day. So
Awesome.
it was a lack of technology and more of like being around family. I didn't eat breakfast. I remember that. I was starving after that workout. So I was just nervous. Everybody was walking into the party. We had some shots rolling around just to get everybody's, I mean, it was 9:30, I think, that morning, and it was shots, just to get people a little loose, especially for me, But it was it was good. I think fifth round came around. I thought I was going to be picked in the fifth round. Um, and then the sixth round came around. I got a call from the team's head coach, and I'm thinking, okay, this is another head coach there, head of scouting. And I'm thinking this is going to be where I land in this sixth round. They ended up picking a punter. So I was like, okay, that's pretty sick. But I started getting calls about like free agency. And honestly, like I started getting down because I was like, man, I don't want to be. There was a bunch of firsts that would have made me, and really screw what everybody else thinks. But like for me personally, that would have hurt. And I'm just being able to hear my name get called after all putting all that work in and making all those sacrifices and dealing with all those roadblocks to get there. That was the best feeling ever. I thought it was going to be another free agency call, and I was about to just hang up the phone because I was tired of hearing it.
Right.
Um, and I heard AP's voice, and that'll stick with me forever. That was a dope conversation. That was a yeah. I got emotional. I don't even. I hate getting emotional around people, but it was like I couldn't stop it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it was a great feeling. I think about that sometimes to this day. So it's gonna stick with me for a long time.
No doubt. No doubt. I mean, all that hard work, the sacrifices, the early mornings, the late nights, and a traditional cadet at the Air Force Academy or any of the academies, they go right into active duty. You come out as a second lieutenant, so you deferred to be able to go into the NFL. And what was that like walking into the NFL locker room for the first time? A program most NFL guys have never seen up close, or most college guys have never seen up close.
Yeah, I mean the Raiders facility. I mean it's just sick. Like I said, you walk in and you feel like you're in. It feels made up. The technology in there, um, second to none. So in terms of facilities that I've seen, they have the number two facility. And it's beautiful. So you walk in, you see some great players, you get introduced by player development staff, and you get assimilated into the team a little bit, and you get to get in the hot tub and cold tub with these dudes and chop it up and figure out who these people actually are besides football players. And that was really cool to be able to see what people are interested in and who they are outside the pads. After making all this cash. So that was really dope to be able to, get to know that and have those relationships. But um, yeah, I mean, as soon as you get in the locker room, you got to get to work. Like
No doubt.
there's no slowing down. There's no getting to really enjoy the moment. You get your locker as a rookie, and you're not even actually in the locker room. You're in like this side panel um, for rookies and for undrafted free agents to sit in during the season. Like that's reality. That's where you're at. And that's a tryout room too. So when you're stuck in there until you prove yourself, until you made the team, and then when you made the team, when the season starts, you finally get to move into the regular locker room. But yeah, you don't really get to enjoy it until you make the team. But when you make the team, it's a damn good feeling. So
Wow. So it's not even enough to get drafted. You still have to make the team, right? Because
yeah,
one of the things we
yeah.
talk about a lot is just because you can play in college doesn't mean you can play in the pros, right? We've seen so many guys that were incredible just get washed out.
Yeah, I mean, injuries is a big thing. I've seen injuries riddle people's careers. I mean, look at me personally, but I see it happen all the time. You have a 200% chance per year to get injured. Like, and that's an injury. That's not like that's not a little dink in your shoulder. That's actual, diagnosis type injury. And, it happens at crazy rates. So I'm not
Sure.
surprised at it at all, but
Yeah.
it is
Well,
unfortunate
look,
part of the game.
yeah, it's a contact sport. What has the NFL taught you about yourself that the Air Force never could have?
Mm, that's a great question. Um, mm, what how a business operates, getting to play in the mind, um, or getting to experience what it might look like to be the operator of a business and an organization like that, and how people make moves in the business and operation mindset, and why they make those moves. And some moves I'll never understand, but there are a lot of moves where I saw the 1+1, and I could get a feel for, okay, this makes a lot of sense. This is the background or the attention that I needed for an understanding of this. Whereas at the academy, it was um, very collectivism based. Everybody is kind of doing the same thing. There's not like a entrepreneurial, you know, cadet.
Right.
Everybody's going to graduate and have the same diploma. Whereas this, I got to see what it looked like to be a CEO type person, and that was a really good and really sucky experience to see, but it's good.
That's remarkable. I mean, I've never heard somebody say that you're like your own CEO. It's almost like Trey Inc., right?
Hmm.
You're in charge. What's the biggest difference between college football and the NFL that nobody tells you until you actually get there?
Oh man, um, I would probably say the things that will get thrown at you just for being associated with the league. Um, there's a lot of things that there's a lot of things that in college you're kind of shielded from, or in college that you don't have to face. Especially being at the academy. But when you get out and you're doing your own thing, when this league opens up so many beautiful doors, and sometimes those doors have some pretty scary hallways. You know what I'm saying? So um, it's just nice having both angles of it, both views. But yeah, no, the NFL opened my eyes up to a lot, um, and more than I could ever imagine. I thank God that I've gotten to experience it and figure some of those things out.
I love it. Love it. Well, Trey, we've got a ton of questions that are starting to roll in. Let's field some. I've got Marcus. He's 19. He's a college safety. How do you train your instincts and recognition as a defensive back when you're not getting traditional passing reps every day?
Man, okay, so a big thing is thank you for the question first, Mark. But biggest thing I would say is film. That's going to put you in the mindset. Okay, I've seen this before on film, and if you can envision yourself on the field where you'd be playing and what that would look like, and your point of view, that when you get put in the game, that instinct it clicks so fast, and when you start to see it once, you start to see it over and over and over. And once you can read it that well, it becomes to a point where you don't even have to see it on film. It's just one of those things that you just feel, and the instinct takes over, and that's when you start to really make those plays that change, your life. So, yeah.
Love it. I've got Deshaun, 18. He just finished his junior year, going into his senior year. He's a highly recruited DB. Everyone around me is telling me to go where you get seen the most. Is visibility in college, does that really matter, or is it about playing time?
Man, if you want the real answer, um, oh, you definitely want to go to a place that you can get playing time in the first place. You definitely want to play to have the film to be able to rep yourself, because they will find talent. There will be lanes and avenues, but nowadays with social media, you can be from any school, and if it blows up big enough, you can find yourself in the league. So it doesn't really matter about the school, but the visibility nowadays is huge, 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 huge. People are getting recruited already out of middle school and high school, and GMs are drooling off of scouts and film that they've seen from these high schoolers. So yeah, I would say the visibility is the biggest thing nowadays.
Awesome. I've got a high school coach. He's saying, Trey, what's the one thing Air Force football did to develop you mentally that you think every program in the country should be doing?
Mm, great question. Another great question. Um, hmm. I think it was the quote unquote brotherhood, and actually emphasizing that every single day who we are to the core, because once you get behind you looking to the right and left of you and saying, I know his weakness like the back of my hand, I know his weakness like the back of my hand, I know his strength like the back of my hand, I know how he plays. Once you get connected like that on a string, once you can have those relationships and bond in that way to know how each other plays on the field, that's why our defense was so good for that long. I wish that every school could embrace that more often, because whether people realize it or not, when people know how each other operate off the field, people will know how people operate on the field right next to them. I know exactly what my outside linebacker is going to do when I'm coming in the box and I see anybody insert in the B gap. I know he might do a little slip and go fit in the wrong gap. So I know in the back of my mind, I'm going to need to go fit in this gap. And I might know that because of how he operates in the classroom. So it's like small stuff like that. I think the Air Force Academy brought that type of attention to your brothers that you're playing with. I think that everybody should have that in their school.
That's awesome. I've got Kevin. He plays D line. Be honest. When you chose Air Force, did any part of you wonder if you were making a mistake? I ask this because I'm getting recruited by them, and they were never on my radar.
I mean, most definitely, especially when you never like I had never heard the academy really before I went. I didn't know where it was. I didn't know what the military aspect of it looked like. Um, so yeah, it kind of freaked me out saying that I was gonna say yes to a school where I was about to be putting on a military uniform. I didn't even know what the acronym for it was. Talking about ABUs. I'm thinking that's talking about football. But after you get on that train and after you take off and actually go about your days in the Air Force Academy, bro, it's the best experience. It's the best looking back on it. But yeah, at first, yeah, I definitely thought I was making a mistake for sure. For sure.
That's awesome. This is the question that I think is important for these young kids, and I love that you're on the panel today. A kid is watching tonight who got passed over by every big school, who nobody has recruited them the way they think they deserve. What would you say to them?
I would say that your options are never zero. I would say that as long as
Mm,
you know your talent, and the only way that you know how talented you can be is trusting in your ability, and that means going to work and training. As long as you know you put in the training and the right recipe to make yourself as good as you can possibly be, well, you will be seen. And when you get the opportunity to be seen, you got to take advantage of that one rep, because that one rep could change your life in the good or the bad, not to scare anybody, but it really can. So taking advantage of that rep whenever you can be seen. Just be ready. Just stay ready, because the opportunity is coming. Promise.
awesome.
I, you know.
Awesome. This is a mom of a high school football player. Trey, you took the road nobody expected. Looking back, would you take it again?
Oh yes. Um, I mean, there are definitely certain things that you can look to and say, man, I wonder what this would have been like in this direction. I wonder if I would have went to this school, or I wonder, you know, but you get bogged down by that. In reality, I know exactly what came from this decision. And no matter how hard it was through the process, that was the best decision I've ever made in my life, because it ended and landed me here. So I can never be upset at that decision, because I know where I made it. So
I love
yeah.
it. Final two questions, Trey, before we get into where people can reach out to you or get a hold of you. What do you want athletes to take away from your story? Not the awards, not the draft pick, but the actual lesson underneath all of it, who has made Trey who he is?
And a lesson that made me who I am. What's another good one? I would say, like, kind of like I said before, that confidence and that football is a sport where every single coverage has a play that is supposed to beat it. Like there is always a play that should and will be beaten by a certain coverage and vice versa. But the one way to change the game is to work on those instincts. Those instincts drive you and take you so far. And the only way to get those instincts is to get those reps. So get those reps as much as you possibly can. Watch that film. Feel like you are that player that is in that film. Think about that at night. I mean, I thought about football all the time. I envisioned myself making plays when I was, using the bathroom in the morning. Like that's the first thing that I thought about. Whenever I'm listening to music, I'm thinking about how I'm going to make this play this week off of this read that I saw. And indulging yourself in the film like that and getting those reps, and you build that confidence and you can do whatever. So it's just about getting reps, get reps, because it's gonna work out at some point and you're gonna be like, man, I saw that before and that's why I made that play.
Awesome. Trey, you're at a crossroad right now, NFL, Air Force. Where are you? Share with us where you are, what your thought process is, and where you are today and what's your next move.
Yeah, so right now I'm healing. I'm in the healing process. Doing pretty good with that though. I'm trying to get back on my feet as soon as possible to get the opportunity again to play. But yeah, as of right now, just trying to get this thing back healthy. I was gonna decide where the next road takes off from either way. So as I get this thing right, I'll be good.
Awesome. And our signature question, our final question, the one we ask every guest on Paths to the Pros. What do you want your name, Trey Taylor, to stand for, your legacy?
Another great one. I want people to remember the person that I am, and as cliche as that is, I think there are so many layers to me, and the person who I authentically am, I know that comes out, and I want to be remembered as somebody who was unapologetically themselves, somebody that is caring for others, and somebody who helps others learn from his own past mistakes. So building people up, bringing people along. I think that's the best that I feel that I do in my day when I feel like I'm giving that advice and bringing people along. So I feel like the more I do that, the better off I am, and that's a legacy that I want to live. So
I love it.
that's it.
I love it. Well, team, thank you so much for joining us. But before we let Trey go, we want to be respectful of his time. Trey, where can people get a hold of you, whether that's a website, your social media handles, or an email?
Yeah, so my email is TreyTaylor007 at Gmail. My Instagram is Trey_Taylor737. And then LinkedIn, Trey Taylor 68. And yeah, you can find me on those three platforms. That's what I use the most. But yeah, I'd love to give you guys a follow back. So keep
That's
up there,
awesome.
bud.
That's awesome. Trey, we can't thank you enough for your time to carve out a little space to share your experience and your journey. Even though we just talked for a half hour, it's the experience that you shared with these young men and women is going to far outlast a half hour of their time. So we appreciate that. Trey, Aaron, thank you so much for joining us, team. You guys, we'll see you next week. Have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you, guys.